Welcome to the UEFA Champions League Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the west coast of the U.S., Josh Lander, joined as always by my mate across the pond there, Dan Tracey. How are you today, Dan?
Very well, thank you. I know you've got March Madness over that side of the pond. Let's squeeze in a bit more March Madness for ourselves as the Champions League reaches the last 8.
Yeah, not to correct you too much, but definitely some April madness as we move into this next round of games. But even the March Madness tournament does bleed over into April, so however you want to play it. There is a bit more dependability, I would say, in the UEFA Champions League than on a bunch of 19-year-old college basketball players chucking the ball at the rim. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you some more winners in this one, as we've been having a pretty successful UEFA Champions League so far. Dan definitely started our Benfica College Fund, yep, as we say, because of the amount of odds that we keep getting on them to cover some bets that we've been making here. We're going to be looking at this quarterfinals as the draws are all set and we know who's playing who now. We have some futures markets that we're going to look at in this video. You do want to make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We're going to be coming back with each and every game of this Champions League for the rest of the way as well, after covering that round of 16 so well. And now like we said, we are into this quarterfinals here. But for this one, some futures markets and some ways to find some juice here, some nice odds in our favor for some teams to advance to certain things. Obviously, to win the championship, we have bets to reach the finals now as well. And then the top goal scorer, that might be a little bit out of reach for some outside of Holland. But we'll take a look at all this stuff with you guys right now. Dan's going to be having all this stuff on thelines.com in written form, so make sure you head over there as well and use the odds finder tool, because there's a ton of books giving us bets right now, futures and otherwise, for this UEFA Champions League the rest of the way. So you want to make sure you're getting the best odds available to you with that odds finder tool we have on the site as well in all of Dan's articles. Dan, let's just get this top goal scorer conversation out of the way, if you will. I think it's still exciting from the standpoint that we can say it's incredible that Erling, Haaland at this point, minus 1,200 on most books to take home the top goal scorer. He has 10. The most impressive part about this is that he's played 402 minutes of football and has scored 10 goals, which is one goal better than every half of football that you would play, which is incredible. And it's what's even more incredible is that Cristiano Ronaldo has the record in this tournament with 17 goals. I don't know if Haaland will be able to catch that. And actually, Cristi also has the second most with 16 goals. But just to set it up, Vinicius Jr. there on Real, plus 650 with 6 goals in 8 matches so far. And then João Mario on Benfica is also at 6 goals, but he's plus 4,000 to be able to take home this top goal scorer. Obviously, teams who are going to advance and continue to play will have an opportunity more so than others to be able to get goals. And I would say that it's more likely for Man City and Real to be moving on past this next round than Benfica. But give me anything that you have on the top goal scorer. Is there anything worth it there outside of taking Haaland at minus 1,200?
I mean, it's very difficult to make a case for anyone else, really. I mean, let's say Man City get knocked out in the last 8 and Real Madrid advance, then maybe there's a bit of movement in the market. But for that to happen, you're probably going to need Vinicius Jr. to score in this upcoming round, eat into Haaland's margin already, and then so on and so forth. But, I mean, if Haaland stays in the competition, all bets are off, literally. I mean, as you said, 17 goals, I'd be willing to take money on him getting 18 for the tournament as a whole. It just seems relentless. It doesn't mean, the opposition at the moment has not been the highest calibre, but even RB Leipzig aren't a bad team in Europe, and they were absolutely blown apart a couple of weeks back. So you're kind of sort of thinking, if you wanted to boost your bankroll and play long on this one, and maybe just, I don't know, if you had like $100 and think, let's go for the minus 1,200, but there's always that nagging doubt of what if you got an injury in the first leg of that quarterfinal match, and then the rest of the chasing pack are getting much closer, then you're sort of sweating till the end of May, beginning of June for that bet. So I probably wouldn't be backing it, but it's really hard to make a case for anyone else. So probably we'll leave this market alone, because I've got some better options in just a moment.
We certainly do. Yeah, let's move on to winning the championship, because I also will not be any one of those crazy guys that you hear about, who's going to throw $100,000 on this to win $1,000 or something ridiculous or whatever. So we'll move on to winning the championship here, and Man City continue to be the favorite at plus 225 to take this thing home, which is still not bad for a team that looks really, really good. However, what's interesting is the second team that they in terms of odds here is plus 300 for Bayern to take home this, and they are playing in this quarterfinal. So it's really going to be about, obviously who comes through here. At this point, you feel comfortable betting on that one to win. Maybe you want to get ahead of it, but there's probably more, individual games and things that ways to bet on Man City and Bayern if you want to find some better juice. I'll just run through the rest real quick. Napoli plus 350 taking on AC Milan in this quarterfinals. Real is taking on Chelsea. They're plus 700. Chelsea plus 1400, and then Inter down there. Inter, Benfica, are both plus 1400, and then AC all the way down at the bottom there at plus 1800 as they are about to take on Napoli right now, as we said, has the third best odds. So where do you begin looking for value here? I guess we can touch on Man City to start at the favorite. You feel comfortable with them winning, but is it worth the juice? Where are you at with Man City?
Yeah, so Manchester City, I have a feeling this is going to be their year, but would I back them now to win outright? No. And the reason is because if you're looking at odds of plus 225 and the opposition they've got to get past between now and the beginning of June, I think that's a terrible price in itself. However, I think there's a workaround. I'm not quite sure on the maths, but you can probably do it a different way if you really believe in Man City or Bayern Munich to a lesser extent. If you were to back Man City to beat Bayern Munich as a single, that comes good. You take those winnings, you roll it onto the next game, that being Real Madrid or Chelsea. Back Man City with those winnings and your original stake, that comes good again. They get to the final. They probably meet Napoli. You back Man City, they beat Napoli, and you just kind of rolled it on for 3 matches in a row. You're probably going to get a better price doing it that way than backing Man City at this price at the moment, because it seems really short and it's such massive hurdles that you just think, actually, that's quite a really short price. There's not enough for me to sort of say, right, I'm going to nail my colours to the mast for Man City right now. If I was going to do it, I'd take it in incremental steps along the way.
I follow. Yeah, and I fully agree with that. And there's a lot of sharp bettors out there who would tell you that that's the way to do it consistently, and that a lot of these futures aren't necessarily the best play. If you believe so strongly in one team, then continue to roll that over and be able to make a bit more at the end of the day than that. But do you feel confident in their ability to come through? I don't want to break down these matches too much, but like between these two at this moment in time, Bayern is slightly better money back to win this thing if you bet on them. Is there a play here either way for one of these teams right now, or is it, regardless, it's sort of a wait and see scenario?
I mean, if you were to ask me, say, a week ago, I'd be really confident on Man City, but now it's all changed at Bayern Munich, hasn't it? Thomas Tuchel's come in, that new manager bounce that will hopefully come into the Allianz Arena very shortly. It's kind of muddied the waters even further. So, again, it's kind of less reason to go for Man City outright. I think it was always going to be a fascinating tie, even more so now. So I feel that, maybe it's to kind of wait and see who gets out of this tie. But, I mean, Bayern Munich, you can make just a stronger case for them to sort of clear each hurdle and get to the outright win, especially now with a new manager. And if you did that, you'd get even more juice out of the market than Man City. So, I mean, it's a fascinating half of the draw, really. Real Madrid versus Chelsea, just the same. I mean, Chelsea obviously going to be the lesser of those four teams, but they've got nothing to lose now, have they? It's kind of almost Champions League or bust. But they're up against the might of Real Madrid. They absolutely blew Liverpool away. Even at plus 700, you kind of think to yourself, do you know what? No one said they were going to win it last season. They were plus 1,200 at this stage, and they just ebbed away. They knocked out Man City, they knocked out Chelsea, they got Liverpool in the final. They're just all the big guns. They just knocked them off one by one and ended up winning it and surprising us all. But, it's going to be
they love playing these. They love playing these British football teams.
Exactly. It plays into the hands.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a big part of this as well. And interestingly, before you get too far away from Bayern, the coaching carousel right now is wild to watch, as Kanta also comes out at your club, Tottenham, and that's going to be impacted by one of these potentially German club managers coming their way as well. This is really interesting to see it in the middle of a season like this. Like it's unprecedented in American sports to watch coaches just be on a carousel in the middle of the season. Really, it doesn't happen that way. So we'll see how it impacts things. But yeah, you mentioned Real playing Chelsea as well, and I would say, interestingly here, before we talk about that other Italian matchup with Napoli and Milan, I'm interested in the Real Chelsea matchup, and I want to actually ask you about a future bet within the context of this series between these two. If an English side wins, you can bet on that plus 175, meaning Chelsea or Man City take home the title, and you make plus 175. Still doesn't seem like great odds there, but with Chelsea, especially because Chelsea's at plus 1400, and at that point, if you think it's going to be a Chelsea Man City final in any way, which I believe is possible, then you would still just take the plus 1400 on Chelsea, or just bet on Man City to win because you think Man City is going to handle Chelsea if they did reach a finals matchup against each other. That said, is there anything with Chelsea in this Real series here or beyond that makes makes you believe there's any reason to put money on some pretty nice odds at plus 1,400 to win it, or maybe potentially the English side bet comes into play?
Well, I think if you go for the English team to reach the final, you're kind of undercutting all the value that comes with Chelsea, because as you said, Chelsea's plus 1,400. If Chelsea got to the semi-final, they'd have to meet Man City if they won. So then you'd have an all-English semi, which would guarantee an English team. But to get to that point, you've kind of got rid of all the juice that comes with Chelsea. So you're probably thinking, by that logic, why go for an English team to reach the final? Why not bet on Chelsea to reach the final? And you can get that at plus 700. So you've halved your outright price, but they've only got to get to the final and they don't even have to win it. So actually, that's probably where the value is rather than going an English team, because it's kind of all steeped in Man City and everything that was kind of fat and juicy from Chelsea's gone. So I'd personally, if I was to try and get anything from Chelsea, get them to reach the final. But I think that's going to be a big ask against Real Madrid.
I agree. I don't like them in the Real series, which we'll talk about as well. But interesting about these Italian squads, we've got 3 of them left. And AC is in a similar boat of Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea's a better side right now for sure. But AC Milan has looked fine only in the Champions League, I should say. They've looked pretty poor everywhere, not the Champions League, but they're in the same boat of this is what they have to play for. And even last series, which was a much more winnable one, perhaps, than taking on Napoli at this point, who looks incredible. But for AC, at plus 1,800 or an Italian side to win, once again, it's similar to English. It's plus like 200 to take an Italian side, and there's 3 of them, and that's great. And that's you have more choices and chances. But those 3 of the weaker teams at the bottom of the who's left here. So I'm not sure if there's any value with Ace. Well, I will say there's some value to thinking that they could make an improbable run, but plus 1,800 for compared to how the giants that they would have to slay to be able to do that at this point. Probably nothing there. I don't know. Do you do anything with any of these Italian sides?
Well, do you know what? I'd be tempted to back Napoli to win at plus 350 because their half of the draw is so much simpler than what we've just discussed. Now, of course, the Champions League can throw up many strange results. I don't think them playing AC Milan is a foregone conclusion, but if they clear that hurdle, they're one game away from the final, and then it is a final. I just feel that even at plus 350, you could probably lay that off if they got a goal ahead in the final. That you could go for an in-play, find some value there. So I just think Napoli are absolutely on fire, and it's almost set up for them now because unlike Man City and unlike Bayern Munich, they've got to worry about their domestic title race as well. They can't really go full fat Champions League mode. Whereas Napoli, it's all but one. They're kind of cantering towards the end of the season in Italy. This is their year in terms of we're never going to get a better chance because Napoli have always looked a good team, but they've always kind of been in that second or third tier of teams that could be really dangerous or, this is a real powerhouse. You sometimes get once every sort of 5-6 years a sort of team that really breaks the glass ceiling. I think this is Napoli's time. So to get to the final is plus 110. And when you consider that route, I think that's kind of great starting price. Plus odds for that, I think is fantastic. But yeah, I just really like the look of Napoli this year. I think that the fact they've got that easier half of the draw kind of sets it up nicely, really. And in a one-off game, I wouldn't necessarily make them the underdog against the likes of Man City, Bayern Munich. I mean, against Real Madrid, it's up for grabs, really. They're not third in the favourites list by accident. This is a team which is a real deal. So I really like the look of Napoli. And I don't think you can even call them a dark horse anymore. They are the real deal. They're legit. So I'd be backing them to win.
Yeah, and you said that last round, and you said that last round when it was a lot juicier odds to take this Napoli team, closer to like plus 1,200 at that time, and now it's obviously whittled down by the amount of teams left. So we'll see what happens there. Last team I just want to mention because Benfica's had a wonderful run and a wonderful offensive run. I don't know if you're necessarily looking for them to make any more waves in this round at this point. But I will ask, maybe we'll be betting on Benfica in these individual matches in some way. Maybe we like goals. Is there anything that you're thinking about the Portuguese side there?
Yeah, I think we'll keep our powder dry until we actually go through the matches. I mean, they'll probably get the better of Inter Milan. I like the look of that tie for Benfica to get to the last 4. But, I mean, if you put them against Napoli, that's when they might fall short. I mean, they look good in isolation, Benfica, but they haven't really been tested. I mean, against Bruges, it was just a free hit, really. I know they did well in the group stage, but that's kind of a long time ago. That momentum needs to sort of be rebooted, and this is where it's going to get really difficult. So, Inter Milan, obviously, they got the better of Porto, that being Benfica's Portuguese rival, so they know how to get the better of a Portuguese team, but I like the look of Benfica as well, but I just don't like the look of them enough to really start looking at futures, outrights, that kind of thing. So, I don't think they'll be embarrassed by getting to the semi-final, but I think that will probably be the end of the road.
Yeah, and if they do that, that still cheers and hats off to them. And against an Inter side that has been looking really, really good, and Lukaku continues to score. But like you said, this Inter team is going to be a bit better than that Bruges team. Shout out to the Belgians. But that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe, though, as we are going to be coming back to you with the videos for the next couple of games and every single game for the rest of the way. So until we see you next, happy betting.